Story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning, and welcome to Story Time. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'm glad that we're here together. Yes, as you can see, not in the Storytime studio today, but we make Storytime happen wherever we are. And of course, a big thank you to good friends Angela Darton and of course Savitha Moorthy here with us this morning, and will be joining in very shortly. So thank you so much for joining in today. As you can see, we're out in Seattle today, the hotel room in Seattle, not quite Mount Rainier, but got to see it. And this shot was actually taken yesterday as I was coming into Seattle. So loving it. And yeah, a few bits to learn about that as well. And please remember too that you can share amazing pictures that you have of landscapes and different things that are around you so that we can get to see what your part of the world looks like. Thank you so much for joining in today, and glad we are here together. A wonderful book awaits us this morning, and this one is called A Winter Walk in the City. Don't forget your boots, don't forget your jackets. It can get pretty cold out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, today is Friday. This Storytime week has been amazing. And of course, we rounded up today with a conversation with Savitha Moorthy, Executive Director at Tandem Partners in Early Learning. And of course, Angela Darton is here too with us and might pop on to say hello. Thank you so much for joining in. And as you know too, Angela Darton wearing many hats and is also a board member at Tandem. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime this morning. Let us see who is with us, ready for our story for today, but of course, also ready to enjoy a wonderful conversation in community with Savitha Moorthy. Good morning to you. How are you doing? Miles and Owen, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, Kristen Costa, thank you so much for being here with us. Absolutely love it. I love it. Thank you. Well, you always brighten my days too. So thank you so much. And I'm glad that we were here to play our little part. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Always appreciate you. And I hope that you continue to feel better and stronger with each passing day. And I hope that you have indeed a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Good morning to you. How are you doing, Amanda West? Zoe, good morning to you. Yes, indeed. I'm glad that you took a winter walk in the neighborhood. And yes, indeed. Thank you so much for sharing that. Good morning to you, Sarah and Nathan. Sending you hugs out there where it is sunny and brisk in Illinois today. Thank you so much for being here with us. Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you indeed. Good morning to you, Tara, McNamara, Erin, and Clara from a very cold and rainy day in Massachusetts. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm experiencing a bit of cold out here in Seattle, but I'm sure it is not at the levels you are. Thank you so much for joining in. What a beautiful mountain picture. Yes, Mount Rainier, and we'll be popping up a few fan facts about that as well. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. Hey! Good morning to you, Morford. How are you doing? Oh my goodness. For those of you who don't know Morford, this is a good friend of mine. We did high school together, 8th grade all the way through 12th. Oh my goodness. Yes, Golimala High School. Thank you so much for joining in, my brother, and I hope that you're doing well. And indeed, thank you indeed for serving our country as well in the Air Force. Love it. Thank you so much for joining in. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Soraya and Sharon. Thank you so much for being here, joining us from Oakland. I almost said right here in Oakland, but no. You're right there in Oakland today. Thank you so much for joining in. Absolutely love it. Please, before we get started with our book, we're going to welcome our guest today this morning. And of course, Angela Darton, too, to just say a little hello. And then we'll get started with our book, and then we'll be back for more conversation. Thank you for joining us. Let us know you're here. And remember, too, whether you're joining Storytime live right now, 7 a.m. Pacific time, you can also join us at 11 a.m. for the recordings. And of course, you can join us at a time that is good for you anytime at storytimewithmrlimata.com, Storytime with Mr. Limata on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Instagram. Thank you so much for being here. At this point, please join me in welcoming our guests for today, Savitha Moorthy and Angela Darton, for a short pop-in. Good morning, good morning.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Peter.
Yeah, no, this is great. I'm excited, and there's no way this was not going to happen. Once it was talked about, I was sold right away. Thank you so much for being here and for the work that you do. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe we'll start with you, Savitha, and then we'll come to Angela. Just what you do and who you are and where you're joining us from today.
Good morning, everybody. I'm joining you from beautiful Haywood, California, which is not far from Oakland. My name is Savitha Moorthy. I'm the Executive Director of Tandem Partners in Early Learning. We're a small, mighty nonprofit working at the intersection of early childhood education and social justice.
Thank you. Yes, Haywood. That's part of my commute every morning. The beautiful Haywood. I went to school in Haywood.
Did you?
Yep. Actually, still finishing up a program there at Cal State East Bay. So, yeah, that is
cool.
Home away from home. Angela.
Hi. Hello, everybody. It's Storytime with Mr. Limata. It's so good to be back. Thank you for having us, Peter.
Thank you for being here, really. And thank you for giving me the security to feel like I can do this, knowing you're here. Safe hands are there to catch me.
You got this. Well, I'm so excited for Savitha to talk about Tandem. As you mentioned, I'm a new board member. I just became a board member in July of this year. And I've known about Tandem for about 4 years now. They've been a great supporter of my books. As you know, maybe your audience has seen me on here before as an author of my books. But Savitha and the folks at Tandem have been just such great supporters of not only my books, but all of the Bay Area authors who write picture books or children's books. And so collectively, the writing community just loves Tandem. Tandem loves us, and we just love supporting each other. And so I'm really glad that she's on here today to talk about the wonderful work that they do and how they can support parents and educators and kids in their early learning success.
No, love it. Thank you both for being here. And Savitha, so you have something to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the Mutual Admiration Society here, Peter, by saying that, the books that Angela and the other Bay Area authors and really authors across the country, right, they're so important to the work that we do at Tandem, because one of the things that we really care about is that children should be able to open picture books and see their lives and their experiences reflected in the stories that they're reading. And so the work of authors like Angela and others is so important because children can see themselves. Those books are mirrors for children and their experiences. And then for other children, those books are windows that let them, give them opportunities to learn about their friends and neighbors in the community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely love that. And just in there too, like so much already said in that short time, and I definitely want us to dive a little bit deeper into all that work and amazing work that you do. And we'll be right back after we read our book. Thank you, and yes, so we'll be right back after this short message, and our guests will be joining us again for more conversation. So please join me on the other side of this very short break and we'll be back for more story time. Thank you for being here with us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda with Amanda Weltman Photography. I'm a photographer and printmaker based in the Pacific Northwest, and I believe that your face deserves wall space. Enjoy today's story time with my favorite storyteller, Mr. Limata.
Thank you indeed, Amanda. Thank you. Yes, your beautiful faces deserve more space. So you know where to go for your photography needs. Amanda Wortman Photography out right here in Washington, in Seattle. So please, please, please do follow Amanda on Instagram. Right. Our story for today, a winter walk in the city. Are you ready? Did you forget your jacket? Don't forget your umbrella. It might rain too. This one is written by CATHY Goldberg Fishman and illustrations by Melanie Ho, and we're reading it with permission of the publishers FAMILIUS Press. Thank you so much to them for allowing us to share this lovely book here. Thank you, CATHY Goldberg Fishman, and of course, Melanie Ho, and of course, Tandem for introducing us to this amazing work. Here we go. A winter walk in the city. A winter walk in the city. What do I see? One glowing menorah. Keep an eye out when you're walking in your neighborhood next time. You might just see one. Or maybe you have already. A winter walk in the city. What do I see? One glowing menorah. And I love the way that little kid is looking at that. Two bells on a tree. Do you see them? Can you find them? Two bells on a tree. A winter walk in the city. What do I see? Two bells on a tree. Can you see them? One, two. Yay! What else do we see? Cards in a window. Oh. Did you get your cards already? There's still time. If you're like me, you're a procrastinator, you still have time. 3 cards in a window. Stuck together. There we go. 4 holiday cakes. Oh my goodness, are you having cake at your house? Please, please invite me. 4 holiday cakes. They're too many for one person. 4 holiday cakes. Oh my God, yum, yum, yum. What's your favorite bakery in your neighborhood? 5 dogs wearing sweaters. Oh my goodness. The fur is not enough. We need to put sweaters on too. I hope that you have your jacket too today. That's a winter walk in the city. What do I see? 5 dogs wearing sweaters. Oh my goodness, how cute. Oh. Oh my goodness. 6 flags with snowflakes. Can you see them? Can you count them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7? No, 6. 6 flags with snowflakes. Oh, can you come and decorate my house too? 6 flags with snowflakes. Oh, 7 tall candles of black, green, and red. What's your favorite color of those? 7 tall candles of black, green, and red. What else do we see? 8 humps on a dragon high overhead. Oh my goodness. Ah, yes. 8 humps on a dragon high overhead. Look at that. How colorful, how beautiful, how majestic. Ah, what do you think we'll see next? Are you ready? All right. 9 empanadas stacked up in piles. Oh my goodness. Can I have all 9? Maybe I'll leave one for you too. Oh my goodness. 9 empanadas stacked up in piles. Wow. 9 empanadas stacked up in piles of 3. Oh, they smell so good. Yum, yum, yum. 10 people sharing with holiday smiles. Oh my goodness. Yes, a winter walk in the city. What do I see? 10 people sharing with holiday smiles. Yay. Sharing with holiday smiles, but I tell you too, share your smile. And that is the end of our story for today. Thank you so much for joining in, friends. Join me on the other side of this very short break when we're back for more story time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Davis. I'm a children's book author, illustrator, and high school art educator. I am the author of 30,000 Stitches, the inspiring story of the National 9/11 flag, illustrated by Sally Warren Comport and published with Worthy Kids #book group. One thing that drew me to writing 30,000 Stitches was the idea that people from all different communities came out to stitch this flag and make it whole again. So I hope that when people read 30,000 Stitches, they remember the power of sharing our stories. When people came out to stitch the flag, they shared their stories, whether about loss or pain or love. We all have stories to tell, and by sharing our stories and listening to one another's stories, we can create a better understanding of each other and create a sense of connection and unity. And this is what creates a more inclusive world. I hope you enjoy your story time with Mr. Limata. Bye, everybody.
Thank you indeed, Amanda. Welcome back, everybody, to Storytime. And thank you indeed. We read our book, A Winter Walk in the City. So find it where you find books. A beautiful one indeed. But also just a reminder, too, that yes, we have stories to tell. We all have stories to tell. And today we're here to tell a wonderful story of Tandem, partners in early learning. So please welcome me, join me in welcoming back Savitha Moorthy to Storytime. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back.
Hello again.
Long time no see. I had, earlier on you mentioned Tandem doing all this work. So what is the mission of Tandem? And maybe even what is in the name?
I can tell you a little bit about what we do. Our organization, like I said earlier, we work at the intersection of social justice and early childhood education. So what does that mean? 90% of our brain development happens by the time we're 5 years old. So the years from 0 to 5 are the most important years in a child's life. And the kind of experiences that children have during this critical period, it has the potential to determine so many outcomes later on in life, whether children are ready when they enter kindergarten for learning, whether they read at grade level by 3rd grade, their high school experiences and high school graduation and post-high school college experiences. So the years from 0 to 5 are so important. And so the kind of experiences that children have are so important, but there are systemic differences in which families and which children have access to these high quality experiences and which families don't and which communities don't. And that's the problem we try to solve. So our mission is to partner with families and with educators and co-create these beautiful, high-quality early learning experiences. So we bring books, beautiful books like the one you read. We bring books and learning materials to children. We organize workshops and play groups for families, and we bring professional development for educators. That's what we do.
No, I love that. And you mentioned there to access, which I think is an important piece. And so how do we make sure, because we know the disparities that are there in our communities, we see it. So what strategies, what specific strategies is Tandem using in order to bring in kids, especially kids from low-income communities?
Our goal, we work in Alameda, Contra Costa, and San Francisco counties, and our goal is to saturate those communities with early learning experiences. So children are encountering these rich, high-quality early learning experiences wherever they go, whether it's in school or at the library or at the health clinic or at the park or the playground. So we have school-based programming. So, we work in about 800 classrooms in the 3 counties that we serve. And then we partner with over 60 community-based organizations where we're doing, play groups at family resource centers and at libraries. We do book giveaways. We have over 2,000 books in our Tandem book collection, and we have 21 different languages represented. So our goal is to also bring these very culturally and linguistically aligned materials to the communities that we serve.
Yeah, and I see too. I mean, it's in your name even, partners in early learning. So how are you partnering? You mentioned these different organizations that you're partnering. How are you partnering with them, and how are you tailoring what you're bringing so that it is actually useful to those communities?
Sure. So, one set of our partners are school districts. We partner with all the major school districts in the 3 counties that we serve. And we set up classrooms with rotating libraries. So children who are enrolled in these classrooms can bring our green book bags with 4 wonderful books, mirrors, and windows. They can bring these book bags home, and they can have really rich literacy experiences at home with their families. And then around the book rotation program, we also have a whole suite of services. So we visit every single classroom, and we do classroom read alouds, and then we do workshops for families, and we do workshops for educators. And then we also partner with family resource centers. We partner with libraries where we're doing play groups, where the model is a little bit different. With a play group, it's meant for children and the caring adults in their life to come and join. And in the play groups, what we're trying to do is that, we call it a 2-generation experience. So we provide a fun, engaging experience for the child, while at the same time, we're providing some resources and building the capacity of the grown-up who's there with the child. So that's what we call our early learning everywhere programming, or our community-based programming, which is primarily for the families of children who are not enrolled in formal preschool.
Yeah, no, I think that partnership is so important. We see it because as an educator myself, we're trying to reach the parents. And I think that's a key element that sometimes is left out in most learning models. And so with this program, what you're doing, deliberately bringing them in, is so powerful. And with that in mind too, how do we encourage parents? Because there are parents that at times feel unsuccessful. And that has been a recurring theme as I've interacted with different families and different parents, because they feel like, well, I'm not an educator. I'm not, I'm not equipped to do this. Or this modern way of learning is not what I did. I did not do Common Core. I did something else. And so trying to think, how do you make parents feel successful? How do you make them feel empowered? And how do you make them feel comfortable to be in those spaces and interact with their children as they're learning, as learning partners?
It's such a great question. I've been an educator for most of my adult life. Ever since I started working, I've been an educator. And then when my son was born, it was really a humbling experience, because I thought, here I am. I've been a preschool teacher. I should know how to read a book or, do story time with my son. And it was such an interesting and humbling experience for me to kind of have to learn how to do it all over again. So at Tandem, we have what we call 3 tips for reading with children. And our tips are, that the first tip is to follow the lead of the child. We want children to have joyful, engaging, fun experiences when they're interacting with a book or interacting with a grown-up around a book. So, sometimes the child may want to read the book from beginning to end in a very traditional way. Sometimes they may want to read certain pages, but not other pages. Sometimes they may want to start in the middle. Sometimes they may want to talk about something that's happening in the story that may not seem relevant to the story, but we believe in following the lead of the child. Our second tip, make it a conversation. So it's the researchers at the Center for Brain Development at Harvard, what they've discovered is that these back and forth interactions that happen between children and the grown-ups in their life, that's what really boosts our neural networks. And so we encourage parents to make it a conversation. And so ask questions. If your child is very young, you may have to ask the question and answer it yourself. But even with very young children, you can have a conversation where you're saying something and the child is responding in nonverbal ways. Maybe they're pointing or they're, making some gestures and things like that. And our third tip is that we want people to have fun. You're reading a book, it should be a joyful experience, and it should be an experience where you're learning something as the adult, the child is learning something. So our invitation to parents and to caregivers is to not feel like you're a teacher, but that you're just a person.
Right. Aren't we fun? Other teachers, I thought we were.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to feel the pressure to educate your child as much as the learning is happening as long as you're hanging out and having a good time.
Yeah, no, I was smiling hard as you were saying, once you mentioned, like parents being partners and doing all these things. And I was raised in Zambia, and I did not know your backstory, Savitha, but I'm pretty sure there's experiences of how our parents would expect us to learn, which is very different from what Tandem is pushing. So how do we get parents? And I speak this just from observing, parents at my own school, and as well as, just even in Zambia in general, to just thinking like, how then do we move parents, shift that thinking, encourage parents to actually bring in the teaching that you're talking about?
I think it's, I always tell people this. I grew up in India and I lived in India until my 20s. And while growing up, I don't think I was ever read even a single bedtime story. It was just not part of our culture to read bedtime stories. But I also have wonderful memories of going to sleep at night. My grandmother lived with us until she passed away. And I have these wonderful memories of my grandmother telling me stories at night. And she would tell me stories about the Indian myths and about the queens and the kings and the princesses and all the stories. And so I grew up with a legacy of these 10,000 bedtime stories. And so what I would recommend to families is to kind of find your own cultural touchstones. For me, it's the stories that my grandmother told me, and I try to channel her when I'm doing bedtime with my son and I'm reading with my son, and just really seeing it more as a passing on of things in our culture that we're sharing with our children. More recently, as I've been reading with my son, one of the things that I'm discovering is just this vast and wonderful world of children's literature that, there's just so many amazing books out there. So we love going to the library together and we pick up books together. And for me, it's as much an exploration for me as it is for him. And so that's my other invitation to parents and caregivers is to treat this as a journey of learning for yourselves and tap into that discovery and tap into that joy and share that with children.
Yeah. And one of the things that you had mentioned too was that thing of the window and mirrors. So can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Sure. We owe this kind of categorization to Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. Many people talk about her as the mother of multicultural literature. And so she came up with this typology, and she talks about books as mirrors, as windows, and as sliding glass doors. And she talks about mirror books as ones that you can open the book and see some part of your life and your lived experience reflected in that book. And a window book is a book that teaches us about our friends and neighbors and others who live in our community with whom we might not share those lived experiences. And then she talks about sliding glass doors as books that transport you to places where you can only go in your imagination. And these are, somewhat artificial categories, because any book can be a mirror and a window and a sliding glass door. And so I think it's kind of like, but it's still helpful to say that, oh, what is a window book, and what book can I go and bring into my home that will help my child learn about a friend or a neighbor in the community. And so having those experiences of like the having experiences of reading mirror books are important, because I think it's really affirming for children. And having window books is important because we learn about others in our community, and that helps us build empathy and compassion. And that's, in my mind, that's the foundation of racial justice and social justice, having that kind of empathy and compassion and understanding for one another.
Yeah, and that, I love that. And my question, actually, my next question is going to be, why is that important? But you've already kind of tied that in. And so just thinking too, you mentioned with Tandem that it is the intersection of social justice and early learning. Why is it important for Tandem? Why is it important for you that happens, that those two come together in teaching our little ones?
Well, because early childhood education, having these high quality early learning experiences have the potential to really determine the kind of experiences children are going to have in school and children are going to have beyond school, all the way into college and career outcomes and earning potential and so on. So when you have systemic differences in who accesses high quality early learning experiences and who doesn't, that becomes a problem, because it's contributing to inequities in our society. And that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that if you look at surveys that have been conducted over time, they will show you that we tend to be, even though our country is becoming more and more and more diverse, individuals, racial and ethnic groups are becoming or remaining pretty homogenous. This is across communities. And so we don't have, as our friend groups and our social groups are so homogenous, we really need to cultivate ways of learning about communities that are not our own, and building bridges to those communities that are not our own. And I think books have such incredible potential to do that. And so we also want to think about books. We have a friend organization, they're called Embrace Race. They talk about creating brave spaces where we can have, teach children to have critical conversations about race and racial justice. So I think books also have the potential to do that.
Right. And just for those joining in too, just a reminder that today we're having a conversation. Of course, we read our wonderful book, A Winter Walk in the City. And then we're having a conversation with Executive Director at Tandem Partners in Early Learning, Savitha Moorthy, and just sharing some of those insights into what Tandem does and some of the strategies that they're using and how they're combining that with social justice work in the community. So very important for us to have this conversation this morning and to learn a little bit more, and also to find ways in which we can reach out to Tandem and help. And talking about that too, we know that Tandem you're doing a lot of work, but how do you manage to do this work? How can people get involved with Tandem? How can people partner with you?
There's lots of ways in which you can get involved with Tandem. We've created a whole library of resources for families for over 100 titles. If you visit our website, you'll see that in our Learning at Home resources for over 100 titles, We have an online read aloud. So it's one of my colleagues doing a wonderful read aloud of the book. And then we also have activity guides that we have created that kind of, build on the interactions and the learning experience happening while you're reading the book with children, but then also extend that learning experience beyond the pages of the book. So I want to invite viewers to visit our website, and all our resources are free and available to the public. So we want to invite people to visit and to, make use of those resources. Sign up for our newsletter. We put out these themed book lists every few months. We just did one for Native American Heritage Month. We did a holiday gift guide. Winter Walk in the City was part of our holiday gift guide. If you're local to the Bay Area, reach out. And, if you're interested in volunteering with us, we welcome that. And you can always donate to our organization.
Yeah, and that's important too. When you talk of donate, some people might think, well, it has to be millions, it has to be thousands for this important work. What donation? What amount of donation counts?
Oh, for us, it's whatever, we're a small nonprofit, and whatever is meaningful for people is a welcome contribution. We believe that no gift is too small, whether it's a gift of time or whether it's a gift of financial contributions. There's no such thing as too small of a gift.
Yeah. And then, too, the issues of, undocumented members of our communities. How does Tandem play a role in that? How do we welcome such members of our communities into our spaces?
We work with families and children across the board. And so it's a very diverse group of families that includes families who are here or who are undocumented. We're also using books to create more empathy and understanding about undocumented families. We have a book that we read that's called Carmela Full of Wishes by Matt de la Pena. That's one, it's an amazing book. And I think it's a great way to introduce children. And I think this is an example of a mirror and a window. I think it's a great book that that helps children understand the challenges of immigration within a broader context of family separation. And I think that's the mirror and that's the window. The idea of being separated from a family member is something that many of us have experience of. And the particular circumstances of immigration may vary from family to family, but I think the book gives us a really developmentally age-appropriate way of talking about it. So we try to raise awareness about these issues by helping children understand them and talk about them in really age-appropriate ways.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And one of the things too that I saw even from your winter selection and even the books you have on your wall right now, it's not just the diversity in the characters, but also the creators of those books. And I think you've been very intentional about that. And why is that important to you? And how do you go about making sure that happens? And how can other organizations take a glean into what you do?
Our mutual friend, Angela Dalton, knows way more about this particular topic than I do. But one of the things that I've been learning as I've been at Tandem from our author and illustrator friends is that the publishing industry is really, really very homogenous. And so, if you look at the picture books that have been published for children over time, and you look at the books that have human protagonists, the representation of children of color in those books, children and families of color in those books, is so limited, which makes it hard to do the windows and mirrors type of thing that I was telling you about. And so, Peter, my family, I'm Indian, I'm South Asian. My husband is biracial. His mother is Latina and his father is white. And our son is Black. And so for a family like ours to find a window book, we're looking for books that have representations of multiracial families, And so it's really hard to do that. And one of the things that it's really affirming for us when we can find books that reflect our experiences. And so we are also really, as an organization, really interested in supporting authors and illustrators who can draw from their lived experiences to create books that all of us can enjoy.
I know, that's so true. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And just, like as we're coming to a close, just wanting again to, and Angela too, feel free to jump in as well if you have anything that you wanted to share. I know that Savitha specifically mentions that you have expertise, knowledge on that particular subject. So please feel free to jump in if you need to. But just as we're closing, and I'll give you some time to just think of what are some tips that you'd want to leave with parents today that you want, like if there's one thing that parents should take away from our conversation today, what could that be? And I'll give you time to think on that a little bit, but also too with, we mentioned that we had the winter giveaway. What other programs are there moving forward with Tandem, whether it's this winter break, whether it's, the rest of the school year, or indeed coming up in the summer?
Our programming is year-round. So, if you're in the Bay Area, if you follow us on social media, you can learn about the different community events that we'll be at. We'd love to see you at those community events. So if you ever visit an event where Tandem has a table, please come and say hi. If you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, or sign up for our newsletter, those are good ways of learning about where we're going to be present. Also, if you sign up for our newsletter, you will be receiving information about our book lists and any other events that we do online. We periodically do author panels, and we do workshops and webinars. So families who are not in the Bay Area can join those.
I just realized that I was muted. I just wanted to jump in. Thank you for, joining us today, Savitha, and talking about Tandem. Again, I am a big fan of Tandem and everything that you all are doing. As a board member, I love being able to support the staff. You have such a wonderful group of people who are working hard every day to help support educators, to help support parents, but ultimately they're also just wonderful role models for children. I mean, you have people who really, truly care about their children's well-being, their education, and their futures. And so I just really wanted to extend that thank you from the community to you all for what you're doing, and to tell all the viewers that are watching today to go to Tandem, visit the website. The activities are wonderful. The reading tips are great. They're really expansive in the reading experience with your children. And so I highly, highly recommend to go and look at those activities and those guides and do the crafts that they have come up with. They're so fun. But, and again, to just expand on what you were talking about, Savitha, about the importance of not just children seeing themselves inside the book, but also the importance of children seeing a person that looks like them, that wrote the book, that made the illustrations. I didn't have that growing up as a child. I was in predominantly white schools. And so the books even reflected that. And, I always want to give homage to the wonderful authors and illustrators, Black authors and illustrators that came before me, because I think it's hard for them to hear sometimes people like myself who say, well, these books were never in my experience as a child. And that's because those books weren't in the libraries and the schools that I attended. And so now what's happening is that these books are being put into schools because of organizations like Tandem, because teachers are more aware of the importance of representation for children, not just in the book, but the people who write the books, who are bringing the books, who are telling their stories. It gives kids the power to know that they can tell their stories as well. They have a voice, they have an experience, and it's important that they share that with the world, because those types of stories and that sharing and that connecting is what brings us closer together. It's what helps alleviate fear of not knowing another person's experience or culture. It removes all of those types of insecurities that we have with other people and other cultures through books. And so again, Tandem as an organization is helping to amplify our stories, amplify our identities. And so I just really thank you for that.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I think the books are important. The books are absolutely important and they're necessary. And the books alone are not enough. I think as a community, we have to learn to use the books to have conversations about the books. So Peter, you asked me what's the one thing that I would leave with families, or what's the one tip I would leave with families? It would be to encourage families to go find a book that maybe is different from your own experience. Find a book that maybe is around a topic that doesn't feel so comfortable or that doesn't feel so familiar to you, and pick up that book and explore the book together with your child and have a conversation with your child about it. I think it's important for us as adults to model to children that we too are learning, and that the books help us learn new things, and that we can learn together with the children in our lives. So I think that's the invitation that I want to leave people with, is find the books and then have a conversation around the book.
Yeah, and I think that issue of modeling, and thank you to Angela for when we're not at home, I knew this would happen.
No worries.
No, thankful for you for sure. Just that issue of modeling too is so important, and I think as adults, many times I think we think we have to know everything, and so it kind of impedes us in learning with our kids, or with others, because we're always like, oh, I need to know this. And even like, I'm sure in your role too as leader, I'm sure you find many times where I need to get more information on that, or I need to do this, and it's okay to say, hey, I don't know that yet. Can we come back to it? But I feel like most of the times it's when we're trying to power through with either wrong information or non-information at all, and it just becomes this. We lose those moments that we could be learning with people. Yeah. Well, sorry.
I want to say, let's learn together. I want to put that on a T-shirt.
I love it. And did you have anything to say about why Tandem? Why that name?
Oh, it's called, our full name is Tandem Partners in Early Learning, because partnership is so baked into our model. Like I said, we're a small organization, but our reach is large. We reach around 15,000 children and families in the 3 counties that we serve. And the only way we are able to do that is because we have such robust partnerships with schools and school districts, with Head Start agencies, with family child cares, with family resource centers, libraries. So we work with this really rich network of partners, and we work in tandem with them. And so therefore the name Tandem Partners in Early Learning.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Angela, I don't know if you had anything else too before we wrap up.
No, I just thank you, Peter Limata, for having us today on Storytime with Mr. Limata. I really appreciate you having me come on. And Savitha, thank you also for having me along with the journey of telling people about Tandem and the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Mr. Limata. And thank you, Angela, for being on our board, being part of our community.
No, thank you too. Really, I appreciate this, because I had heard about Tandem and Angela had mentioned, but to actually get to learn, and all those links that were sent to got me an opportunity to actually dig in and dive into what you do. And of course, too, it is definitely going to be so much more learning that needs to happen. And then too, just Angela, thank you. I know, and this is why community is important. This is why telling our stories and having diverse faces, views on boards and in organizations matters, because then that way, I don't know if I would have known about Tandem in this meaningful way had it not been, for connecting with Angela. But thank you so much for doing that, and also for being here this morning too, holding us together. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, taking the time to be with us in the morning.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's a joy. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And please, just one more time before we go, could you give us where people can find Tandem, and also just before we go to there's a comment there for you all. It says, "Thank you for coming and letting us know more about Tandem.
Thank
you
you.
Did great."
Thank you so much. Yeah, he did do great on the interview, didn't he?
I've got notes. No, you're great.
The best ways to learn about Tandem are by visiting our website, signing up for our newsletter, and following us on social media. If you're interested in making a contribution, we have a group of donors that are matching dollar for dollar $10,000. So it's an opportunity to double your impact.
Yes, and I know too that you had shared with me, and I'd put it up ready to queue, but when I got logged out and logged back on, I lost that. But I know we have links to donate to Tandem, which we'll be putting to, you can get through going to tandembayarea.org, or indeed you can go through the Storytime bio on Instagram or the Storytime with Limata.com, be able to find those links to how you can donate to Tandem, as well as how you can sign up to their newsletter. So please, whatever is easiest for you, do that and join, and just get tips, get insights on books and everything else that is happening that could be useful. That it will be useful to you and your kids. So thank you so much for joining us on Storytime today. This has been Storytime with two amazing people, Savitha Moorthy, Executive Director at Tandem, and board member Angela Darton joining us this morning. This has been Storytime for this week. Thank you so much. I'll catch you on the flip side of this.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Happy Friday.
Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off before you were still talking. I'm doing great.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
All right, thank you. That was Angela Darton and Savitha Moorthy. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Thank you so much for joining Storytime this week. We've had amazing books, and of course, we rounded off with this winter walk in the city, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see so many wonderful things. And as you're walking in your neighborhoods today, I encourage you to take a look. Take a look outside and see what you can find. See all those beautiful things that are in your neighborhood. Look out. And to remember that we've been doing our Kindness December Challenge on Storytime. And thanks to Action for Happiness for allowing us to be sharing this, for creating this and allowing us to share it here on Storytime as well. And as you know, today is the 16th of December. So we're kind of a little bit to the right of your screen in yellow, and it says, look for something positive to say to everyone you speak to today. So challenge for you there. And please remember too that you can find this on the Storytime platforms as well as on Action for Happiness platforms. Print it out, see what you can do each particular day this December as we go through our kindness challenge. Thank you so much for being here with us. And indeed, our picture for today is Mount Rainier out here in Washington, about 59 miles southeast of Seattle. So if you're out here, as you fly in, you definitely see it, and hopefully one day you can get to visit. Thank you so much for being here with us, friends. Absolutely appreciate you, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Yes, indeed. Christine, Owen, and of course, Miles, thank you so much. You say, hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I'm sure we all agree to that. Much love from me. Thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime. This has been Storytime for this week. This has been Storytime for this wonderful Friday morning, and of course, wishing you a wonderful weekend. Much love from me. Bye-bye.
Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all reading? We just can't wait to be here. Read me all of the stories. Read me all of the stories. Some of people who look like me are very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of the stories. Read me all of the stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Read me all of the stories. Read me all of the stories. Some of the people who look like me are very different from the way that I look and think. Read me all of the stories. Read me all of the stories. Some stories from far away, others right here in my neighborhood. Story time. Ooh. Story time. Story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Story time with Mr. Limata. Where all your dreams come true. He brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to hear it. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't live lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to